Hello everyone and welcome back to Sunny Isle, and we're here in Sapphire Bay, and today I'd like to take a look at how people are getting about the city. If we take a look at the car parks along the beachfront here, you can see they're pretty much at max capacity, and that's because the only way for people to get about the city currently is by car. Alternatively, we've got footpaths that run out of the city, and you can see they're very popular, and these people are walking a very long way. Alright, so it looks like Cynthia has made it to work and now she's going to be heading home now. So she's taken the long walk back. But just to give you an idea of the distance that she walked, I first spotted her down by the new high school, and she followed this path all the way through these farms, past these industrial units, and across the river, and then up to the little store there. So it's quite incredible how far people are willing to go. But I'd like to make the life a little bit easier for them, and first of all we need to place down the bus depot. Fortunately, we don't need to spend any development points to place this down, as it's included in the basic transportation services. And I'd like to place this somewhere centrally in our starting area, so that when buses need to come back to the depot for maintenance, they don't need to travel too far. So I'm thinking somewhere in the Newbridge area would make sense. So that would be equidistance for River Hill and the Valley, and our downtown Reuben and Caplin area. We've got two potential areas that this could be placed. We've either got this spot here, which is quite forested and it's near this small little industrial area, or we've got this turn in the river here, and I've got the contour lines on at the moment and it looks like it is pretty flat. Let's just see what this looks like in both of these areas. We do need to consider that we might want to add some extension garages onto these so that we can get more buses in the future. That would require having some more space available around the asset. So I place it on this side of the road, and the main reason is we can run a frontage road around the side of the asset and connect up with this farm lane here. And the reason why I picked this area over this area is at the moment this is simply a cul-de-sac, and if there was an incident on this road, I don't want there to be an issue with buses being able to get back to the depot. Whereas with this new area that we're looking at, we have an entrance onto Newbridge Road here and another one that connects up to the road leading to River Hill. And with that, we've got our first new piece of public transport infrastructure since placing down the ferry terminal. And Evergreen Lane doesn't seem appropriate, so we'll just call this Coach Lane. And whilst this is looking more like a cul-de-sac similar to the situation we had down here, we don't have any other uses on this road, so we shouldn't experience that much traffic. Whereas over here, you're going to get industrial vehicles servicing the farm, as well as residential vehicles heading home. And I'm just thinking these guys probably would like somewhere to park since there's no parking on the road. So let's just give them some street parking. Let's upgrade that. Lovely. Okay, let's have a look at the bus depot. So we get 25 buses to use, and I think I'm planning on putting down 3 lines, so that gives us around about 8 buses per line with 1 spare for maintenance. And if we take a look at the extra garage, you can see we've got space for around about 2 or 3 in this area when we need it. Just as I place this down, we also unlocked milestone 9, which gave us a nice boost in our budget with 225,000. A bunch more development points and expansion permits, and we can now zone some high density commercial. And as we're playing on a European themed map, we currently have the European style bus shelter, but I think I prefer the North American version. They look like this if you're curious. So this is the EU version and this is the North American version. And I mean, they're both really nice looking assets, but in my last build I did mostly use the EU version, so I quite fancy just trying out the North American version for now. And the first stop I'd like to make on our new line will be to serve our new school area. And I think we could probably create a couple of stops here and then have one that stops at the end to help the bus turn around. So we'll have one here, and then we'll put another one here. And what we can do is we can grab our alley road and turn on snap to geometry and snap to the zone grid. And if we simply just double click in the center there, that should create two individual bus bays. Yeah, you can see we've got one bay here with a little bit of street parking there, and another bay here with a little bit more street parking. Now, I don't want to have street parking here, so let's just grab our road services tool and we'll add a grass verge on both of these sections. And then that gives plenty of visibility for the buses and the vehicles in this area, especially as we'll have quite a lot of people crossing. I did have to remove the power line to be able to place those shelters. For some reason they were clashing, but I wonder now if I can add them back. Not that these are needed, because I know that they run under the road, but for atmospheric purposes, aesthetically I think they look quite nice. Just gives the area a little bit more life. So we've got these two bus stops here, so that will allow a drop off and a return. And we need to have somewhere for the buses to turn around. And I think just having them loop around the back of the high school would be useful. We've got this farm here, we've got this smaller high school that can be served. And for this turnaround stop, I think we can simply have it stop outside the small high school there. For the remaining stops, we want to distance these appropriately. So we've placed our first stop down here, and we could use a road to measure around about 200 meters. So say we put one here, we probably need to place one around about here in the middle of the neighborhood. So that is 1, 2, 3 blocks. So then we can just use that frequency of every 3 blocks placing a bus stop. And whilst we're here, I'm going to upgrade this road so with that we've got better turning. And I'm placing these just after the intersection so that when people disembark from the bus, they're able to come down to the intersection and cross over if they need to. I used to place these on the end of the road segment so that people could cross in front, but I found that if you place them on the rear side of the segment, not only do people disperse in both directions without having to hold up the bus, but buses are able to also cover some distance whilst also potentially allowing, if there was a light here, to turn green and follow through. Whereas when you place them at the end of the segment, they can sometimes get caught up in traffic or the light doesn't change as quickly. And I usually avoid placing them in the middle of the segment just because I find that it wastes so much of the parking areas or areas for grass verges and trees. And I'm simply going to do the trick again with the alley road. And that gives us a nice asymmetric layout with the bus bay and the parking bay here. And it also allows us to upgrade these to use the asymmetric roads if we'd like as well. So we've got one here, and we just need to go another 3 blocks down. So we need to put another one here. I also like to avoid placing stops too close to business entrances. And I think this one's just a little bit too close, so we can just nudge it over a little bit, ensuring that we're not blocking any traffic or potentially creating a dangerous place for people to pull out or walk across. And for this one, since we're on a turn in the road, I'm placing the bus shelters more in the middle, just so that there's good visibility. And we can even shorten these bus bays by just selecting a little node along here. Unfortunately, I think if I were to place another one on this side, it does remove the other one. So to prevent that, I think the workaround is adding the upgrade, the grass verge upgrade, and then I think it would allow us to do it. Yeah. Perfect. And we could potentially look at making this into a nice park in the future, since it's quite a odd shape. And we're at the end of the line here, and I think I'm just going to put a roundabout for now. And we only need to place one stop, as it's the end of the line. And we'll just place that there for now. So now that we've got all our bus stops in, we can go back to our transportation menu and select the bus line tool. And I think we can turn this off and still see where all the stops are. Yeah, perfect. So we've got our first stop down here, which is down by the high school. So we got the little turnaround section here. So that starts at the back of the high school and it should come down and connect up to the front. And then we've got one on the corner of Reuben Street and Bridge Street. And then we start to go along Bridge Street here into Kaplan. And then we start to enter into the industrial area. I think this one might be a little bit too close to this one, so we might need to adjust that one, but I'll leave it for now. Then we've got our turnaround. And for some reason it's making this odd journey, but I'll leave it for now. And then we'll just come back through. And then complete the line. So you can see down here the bus makes a left turn and then turns back up onto the main road. I'm not sure why it does this, and you can fix it by putting a waypoint, but I'm going to avoid doing that because waypoints can cause more issues. Try and make its way there no matter what, so it might start making all these strange routes just to make it to its waypoint. Whereas with this, at least, if there is an issue on this road down here, it can reroute itself and find its more efficient path. And often these are more of a visual error than the actual pathing the bus takes. So let's open up our transportation overview, and we've got our first bus line. For naming, I like to go for a location based, where we simply just put the two ends of the line. So this will be starting at Reuben School to the warehouse district. Nice and simple. And for the color of these buses, I think I'd like to go for a cream. It's a little bit unusual, but there's some old buses that I've been seeing around in my local area, and they've got this lovely old cream palette. So if we look at the line details, we currently have 7 buses assigned with a ticket price of 8. So I'm going to drop the ticket price down to 2, just so that we have better access for households that don't have that much wealth. And we can see the line usage is already going up, 22% at the moment. And it looks like we're having an issue with no vehicles, so we'll have to have a look to see what's going on at the depot. So we're down at our depot, and we can see that our efficiency is down to 28%. And the main culprit is the fact that we cut our service budget when we placed down the ferry and cargo ports, because we just didn't have enough money to cover their expenses. But now that we're bringing in a nice healthy sum of money, we can go back into our services panel and reset our transportation budget. Whoa, 430,000. So what was it before? 216. All right. That's quite expensive, but I think we really need to make full use of our bus depot, so I'm going to push this up to 100. Fortunately, we're still in a good place financially. We're at 250,000 positive a month, so we just need to be very careful now on any big projects not to overspend. And we can see one of our buses here. So yeah, I think that cream color looks quite nice. For some reason, I think it really suits this tropical climate, so I quite like that. I think it's quite a unique color, and it could be one of those iconic symbols of the city that it's known for. And we're coming into our first stop here. Let's see if it picks some people up. Oh yeah, quite a few. Very nice. So have a quick look at the line again. It's jumped up to 66%, which is really, really good to see. We've got 370 passengers. I'm really happy with the results of that. All right, let's go and build our next line. Hello, Mr. Ship. You appear to be going inside the other one. Okay, you don't care. All right, so for our next line, I'd like to add on the taxi and bus extension. So it looks like we need to first get the taxis in the city before it allows us to unlock that. So let's grab the taxi depot. It's all the way down here. So where to put this? It's a little bit smaller, but again, it's got a lot of add-ons, and I'm wondering whether we use the space that we originally preserved when we placed down the bus depot on the opposite side of the road. And I'm not going to be too precious. I'm just going to place that in here. It's a taxi depot. I don't know what else to say. It's got a couple of upgrades, some more taxi vehicle garages, a dispatch center, which I think is a pretty good add-on because you don't need to place down any taxi ranks. But I'd like to try out the taxi ranks just for a little bit because I haven't really played with them that much, so I'm going to leave that off. And electric vehicles, we don't need that yet. We're trying to save money. So if we come back to Sapphire Bay Harbour, the ferry terminal, you can see that the transit terminal has now been unlocked and we can add that on. And I believe that will remove most of the parking here. And we are using this 4-lane road with a medium divider, and we're going to need to replace this because if we've got buses coming into the ferry terminal, they won't be able to cross the road to get access. They will have to go all the way down to the end and around the roundabout. And so let's see if we can upgrade this somehow. There we go. I've upgraded the road without a medium. And I also aligned it so that this retaining wall could stay straight. It does mean there is a little bit of a jog in the road. Buses should be able to enter into the transfer center now. And you can see these vehicles have left a space for that too. All right, so we've got this one, and this will be the start of the line. And this is one that we want to take up to Riverhill. So I think we could have it simply just follow this road, keep the line as straight as possible. That should improve the efficiency and help anyone that's up here get into town a lot quicker. So the first stop I'm going to place near Bridge Road, since we have an existing stop on the main line that runs through the center of town, and if somebody wants to transfer, they should be able to do that more easily if we allow them to get off here. So ensuring we've got the North America mode on, let's grab our bus stop shelter and find a good spot. Let's just turn off the info view and see what happens to the road. So with this one here, with the retaining wall, the key, we could add a bus stop, but it doesn't add a bus bay. So it could cause congestion if there were vehicles stuck behind the bus that stops. Whereas on this side, you could see that it would create a bus bay, replacing the parked cars. So I think I could put one on this side, and then maybe we look at adding one on this side here. But again, we've got a similar situation where there's no bus bay being created because we're using this asymmetric road. So perhaps we could upgrade this while we're here. I'm going to use the 4-lane divided road, the one with the medium. The long-term plan is to introduce trams through here. And if we use the one with the medium, that means we can get a dedicated tramway that runs in the center of the road without having to interact with the traffic. And if we take a closer look at this road segment, we have the 2 driving lanes for the vehicles to take you up to the lights, and then we have the bus bay that allows the buses to come out of the way of any waiting traffic. It's a little bit tight quarters in this section here, so we'll have to keep an eye on the congestion, but for now I think this is the best solution. And I can see we've got a little bit of a U-turn happening here, so let's just go into our road service tools and let's turn off the no right turn. We don't need that. We can just have them merge in. And this is quite a common configuration on some of the roads that I've encountered when driving into London. They will allow 2 lanes of traffic to drive straight on. They will often merge into a single lane where it becomes a little bit more narrow. And what that does, it just allows a higher throughput of any vehicles waiting at this junction, and they can simply just zip and merge on this end here. So the distance between these 2 stops is quite long. So I'm just going to grab a pavement path and just figure out how long it is. So we're looking at around about 700 meters. So I think we could get away with having a bus stop in between. And this should serve some of these shop fronts facing the harbour road. Now I don't think I'll be able to create a dedicated bus bay. Since this road forks off from this main waterfront road, I don't think it will receive as much traffic. The buses stopping here shouldn't cause too much congestion. And to help people access this side of the road, I'm going to draw a footpath extending from up here and connect it up to this pedestrian path that we've got running behind this car park. And I don't think we need any lights on there, so I wonder if we can remove them. I know sometimes these pedestrian crossings can be a little bit tricky with the traffic lights. Yeah, no, it won't let us remove them. I think you have to have the footpath extend onwards to be able to remove them. Yeah, you need to have a pedestrian path connected on both sides to be able to remove them. And I'm not really keen on having this here. I think it just looks a little bit odd. So we'll just remove that for now, and we'll just accept the lights. It will help people cross the road easier, at least. So if we take an overview look of this part of town, we've got the first stop at the harbour, one in the middle here by the turn in the road, another one by the bridge, and then I think we could probably have one more in our city services district. Down here we've got a whole bunch of things from the police station, the firehouse, medical clinic, and we've even got this little cozy postal office. So I'm looking at this part of Harbour Street for our next bus stop. It gives access to River Lane and also this farming road here, Foggy Lane. We have this school here, but to access it you would have to walk around, and there's either a footpath here or a road entrance. But I think it might be worth adding a pedestrian path through here so that it can connect up to our future bus stop. Now I've got to be careful not to place this in front of anybody's driveway because I imagine they would be very upset. But I think that's a good spot here, and that's a good spot there. Now, coming over here, I think we might end up losing a house to squeeze in this pedestrian path. It's just a little bit too tight on this corner here. Having multiple options when it comes to getting from point A to point B will offer a lot more fluidity in your city, and as such with City Skylines 2, where we have traffic accidents and road maintenance, it's important to have a number of ways to get around. And with that, you know, we're not really experiencing any traffic in this city, no congestion at least. We've got plenty of vehicles on the road, especially on these main vehicle corridors, and even a lot of pedestrians. You can see this bus lane is super popular. So let's go into our transportation overview and let's have a look at bumping up the number of vehicles. We currently have 7. Let's just clear out the system. Let's just jack it up to 13, and we'll come back to this and bring it down to a more appropriate level once they've cleared out the backlog. But yeah, this is just crazy. Now, I'm not sure whether I want to include any rural stops. We do have a couple of farms here, but they're not employing that many people. So there's 27 people at this textile fiber farm, and there's only 9 people at this vegetable farm. We look at the Newbridge district. There are around about 500 employees. That's a lot more than I thought. So maybe it would be worth having a stop here so that people can walk down to this farm if they need to, but they can also access this one here and this little industrial estate, and even those that maybe want to walk all the way down to the bus depot. So I'm just going to create a very basic rural stop, and I do want to take the traffic off the road, so I'm simply going to just use the alley road here. And this is gonna look pretty bad, I'll tell you that, but I think it will be fine because it will rarely be used apart from a few buses. So I'm just gonna drag this out and create a very basic pull-in. There we go. And then we can just put a couple of bus stops on here. We'll have to use the basic bus stop sign, this one, but that's fine. We'll just pop a couple of those here. That's good. That's fine. So now that we're in Riverhill, so Riverhill is, if we measure the distance from one end to the other, so this is around about the rough width, so it's 800 meters. And with it being quite a rural area, I would say that we would only need 2 bus stops in this village. So I would say probably one down near the park here, since this will be a highly visited attraction in the area, and then one down by the cemetery for similar reasons. So by the park, this will be the end of the line. So we could allow it to go up to the end of the roundabout and turn around. We don't have any destinations over here, so I think it will make more sense if it can just simply go around this block of houses and then have it stop on, let's have it stop on the park side so that people don't have to cross the road. And there's more people living on this side of the road as well, so we don't need them unnecessarily crossing. So let's grab the bus stop shelter again, and we'll just pop it down this end here. Alright, so with that stop in place, we can now draw the line. So we can start up here in Riverhill, why not? And connect that up to the one near the cemetery. We'll bring this down to our little farm road. And this one connects up to our city services area, then by the bridge road, followed by the waterfront, and then we can finish it off down by the harbour. And then we'll do that back again. Alright, let's open up the transportation view and take a look. So we'll rename this one Bay Harbour to Riverhill. And for this one, I think I want to keep the colour scheme that we've got going. So this one uses a orangey colour. We'll just bring that down here. And then we can make this slightly darker just so that we can see the difference when we're looking at the lines on the map. This line will have 6 vehicles, and knowing what happened to our first line, I bet it'll be super popular. So let's just bump it up to 8 for now, and we can return back later and reduce it as needed. And let's see where our first buses are. Oh, this is an unusual color. It's kind of got a khaki desert greeny color to it. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't know. It's quite an interesting color. We'll leave it for now. And it looks like it's just about to pull into the first stop. Hello, what we got going on here? There we go. Perfect, pristine, flat asphalt. Beautiful. Let's have a quick look to see if that bus stop queue has died down a little bit. I think, yeah, look at it. It's completely gone now. Barely anybody waiting here now. Look at these little blue doors. That's quite nice. That's a lovely asset, isn't it? Let's have a look at the line. So it's got 81% usage with over 800 users at the moment. So even though we've got the maximum capacity of assigned vehicles, it's still getting a lot of heavy use. So we'll leave that like it is for now and put in our third line. So our third line is also going to be starting at our ferry harbour, but this one will be bypassing most of the town centre, and we want this one to come out of town and connect up possibly stopping at our incinerator plant, but ultimately connecting up to our outside connection over here. So this will be an express route, probably with only 2 or 3 stops in between. I don't want to just have it running between the city and the external connection. I often find those bus lines are not used very much, so if we can find another use for it along the way, stopping here and possibly at the Valley Commercial Centre, I think this would be a good place to have it come into. I think it would be worth having. Often these intercity bus routes have such a high number of vehicles assigned to them, even when you set it to a minimum, and that's simply just because the distance is so long. So let's get our money's worth and get some stops in. Now at the Valley Commercial Centre, we don't really have anywhere that we can place a bus shelter, but we can place down these stop signs quite easily. And I'm thinking just somewhere in the middle. I don't think we need more than 1 stop here. People can walk around as needed. But I'm thinking somewhere around this intersection here, because we've got this footpath that goes over the river and into Riverhill. It provides the residents of this village one more option to get about the city. They may even want to leave the city, so they can use this stop down here without having to head into town. And just over yonder, we've got this industrial area that's also included in the valley. And I think we could potentially put a stop here as well. We've got quite a few people working in this area. Similar to the Riverbend area, is it called? No, Newbridge. It has around about 500-600 people working here. And they would probably appreciate having an alternative way to get around. But I did just notice we did put in this footpath in a previous episode, and it does come all the way around and down here and up to here. So I'm reconsidering. I don't think we need to add another stop. So looking at our incineration plant zone, it's a little bit awkward for placing a bus stop because we'd have them coming down this rural highway, and then what would they do? They would probably need to turn in here and then do a U-turn at the end of Hemlock Street. Alternatively, we could have them use this gravel road that goes over the old abandoned rail track and along the bay here. But this road is really slow, a lot slower than if they were using the rural highway. So perhaps we could just build a little bit of a turnaround here so that the buses have an easier way of getting out. And for that, I might use the one-way public transport lane, and we can use it so that other vehicles are discouraged from using it. Just simply create a U-turn by grabbing the continuous curve tool and see if we can select one of these lanes. Okay, it's been a little bit finicky, but we can just do this. There we go. There we go. That's a simple turnaround. So we can place a bus stop here, and the buses can continue straight, make a U-turn, and head straight back out onto the rural highway. There we go, and with that one in place, we can simply start to draw our third and final line. So starting with our external connection with Honesdale. I'm not sure how I feel about that name. We might need to come up with a better one for that. Coming down here to the incinerator, and I've just realized that this bus stop on this side is a little bit redundant because there's no way for buses to come in. So we're going to need to upgrade this to a 2-lane road. There we go. And then we need to connect that up with the Valley Commercial Park. There we go. And then we can have it simply come into the ferry terminal. And we'll make sure we'll pick the right bay. There we go. And there we go. That completes the line. And it looks like it's put 12 buses on this. I think that's way too many. I don't think we're going to get that much use on this. So I'm going to drop it down to... I'm just going to drop it down to the minimum, 6. Change the price to 2. And for the colour, since this is an intercity line, we can have something a little bit different to our local buses. A nice dark green colour. I don't mind that. And it looks like we don't have enough buses, which makes sense because our other buses are probably using them up. We've got 25 buses available, I believe, so this should be the right amount, but we probably have a load in maintenance. So back at our bus depot, we can see how many buses are in use. There's 25 in use, and we don't have any that are in maintenance. So I'm not sure where the lack of buses is coming from. So looks like River Hill bus isn't getting that much use, so we could shave off one off there down to 7. And then for the main inner city bus route, let's drop that down just down to 12 for now. And then that gives us a few buses available for when they go into maintenance. And this is the color of the bus. It's a very dark green, which I think looks quite luxurious, if anything. Maybe it's like one of those fancy luxurious coaches that takes people from city to city. You have to pay for a premium ticket. Often they call these a bus limousine. They'll have entertainment systems, toilet, snack bar. I mean, in reality, it is just a basic city bus, so it is probably not that nice to use, but they do keep these buses in really good condition. Look how shiny it is. I like that. Okay, so with those bus stops in place, let's just have a quick gander at our transportation info view. Having around about 390, 400 citizens using them per month. Our buses is getting a nice number, a nice 6,000 per month. So let's take a look at the taxis to see how much they're getting used. Looks like most of them are out on the job right now, either on their way to pick someone up or currently with passengers. I think we should really have a look at putting down some taxi ranks since we don't have the dispatch center set up yet. And to do that, we just need to jump into the transportation menu. And is there a difference between these? I've never really had a look. So there's the EU taxi shelter and the North American taxi shelter. So we've got this little test road here. Let's have a look, see what they look like. So that was the EU one, and that's the North America one. Oh yeah, so they are different to the bus stops. And the North America one has a solid roof, whereas the EU one has the glass roof. I think since we're in quite a sunny climate, I'm tempted to use the North American one as well, just to provide some shade cover to anyone that's waiting. So if we have a look at Reuben, it's a very dense area to live in. So we've got the buses running along here, but I imagine we get a lot of people wanting to transfer from bus to taxi. So we could have maybe one of these near the bus stop. So we've got one bus stop on the corner here. So we could have the taxi rank just waiting on the side road here, since there should be a little bit less traffic on this road, and we've got a car park here, so potentially people could even leave their car here and then jump into a taxi. So we'll put this one there, and I'm going to put another one down near the bridge. And I think we've got a bus stop over here, so let's place this on this road somewhere around here. So this one on the other side of the bridge will hit 2 of the bus lines. So we got the one that's heading to River Hill, and then we got the one that goes through the city. And I think we've got a good spot here. We could potentially put a little park or something in this triangle space, not too close to the intersection. We want to be able to allow the taxis to pull out, and then we'll just make that a little bit shorter as well. Now for this area, I'm going to put one of these taxi stands instead of a shelter, simply because we can't put the shelters on the alley road. And we've got quite a lot of parking around here, so it could potentially be used as a little bit of a parking ride as well. And since we can't take the taxis into a bay, I'm simply just going to reuse this car parking asset for them to be able to turn around. So I'll place it on this side of the road. And I mean, in theory, they should be able to just drive up, pick someone up, and then come into the parking lot and come back out. All right, so we've got a whole bunch of new taxi ranks in the city, and that's probably going to drive up demand. So I think it Might be worth adding some of these extensions on. Plenty of taxis. I would love to be able to change the color of taxis. That would be a great addition to the game. It would help us differentiate the difference between local taxis and the intercity taxis that bring people from out of town as well. Oh dear, we've got a little bit of traffic downtown. This area is going to need a little bit of care and attention, I think, especially now that we've got all these buses coming through here, taxis. Let's have a look at the bus situation. So we are seeing massive usage for our inner city bus route. So I might need to just bump that back up to 13, and hopefully there's enough buses available in the depot to be able to fulfill demand. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the progress we're making. Now that we've got the bare bones of our public transport system in place, we can start to identify areas where we may need to increase the capacity, either by using trams or adding additional bus lines. Especially between Reuben and Kaplan, there's clearly a lot of demand for movement between the two areas. I can definitely see there being a good reason to bring in a larger road through here and then even putting a dedicated tramway through the middle. And perhaps we look at that in the next episode or two. Look at this taxi rank, so busy. The city's looking pretty cool. I like this stage at which we're at now, where we're slowing down the growth and we're concentrating on smaller projects, improving the efficiency and the livelihood of those that live here. But generally speaking, I'm really excited to see how this city grows, and I look forward to having you join us in the next one. Goodbye.